What is up, Soul Fam? It's Sundar from Substance Overstyle. Welcome to a new video. I missed you guys. Sorry there was no video last week. I took a couple of days off to go to Secret Garden Party, because if you guys don't already know, I'm actually leaving the UK really soon. So I wanted to do like one festival before I leave. So I've just been kind of playing catch up since I got back. So I haven't been able to do as many videos as I would like. But I thought I'd jump on today because I had a little bit of time, and I want to talk about, I want to do a little Ascension update, and I also want to talk about what happens, you know, what things that can happen when you start to level up, when you start to kind of go along your ascension journey or your healing journey, however you want to call it, level up journey, and some of the things that you may notice happening, not necessarily will notice happening, just may. Oh shit, what is going on? Sorry, I'm just trying to light the incense, just bear with me a second. So yes, in terms of like the Ascension update, yeah, it's kind of interesting, the portal that we're in at the moment. I'm noticing it's kind of like there's a lot happening, but also there isn't. It's also it feels very gentle at the moment, for me anyway. It feels very, very gentle. But one thing that I have been noticing, and quite a few other people have reported the same, is some of us, you know, especially if you've been on the path for a while, may notice yourself popping in and out of 5D to the point where it becomes noticeable that you've actually like jumped or shifted. So it happened to me couple of weeks ago. It was on, you know, one of the days here in London where we had a really, really hot day, and it hit like, I think like 37, 38, 39, maybe even almost 40 degrees, and I was just spending the day with some friends, and you know, we went for dinner in the evening, and you know, our evenings in London are like, in the UK are like so long, and like really you know, the sun sets really, really late in the day, like, you know, sort of like 9, sometimes even 10 p.m. So, and it was really, really warm that day, and it was so beautiful. And I just remember we were at Battersea Power Station, we were walking by the river, and the sun was setting, and the sky was so beautiful. I've literally never seen a sunset like that in my life. Like, there were colors in this sunset that I've never seen before, and it felt extremely surreal. And I just started feeling like, is this, like, have I shifted? It wasn't like undoubtedly, but it felt different. It felt different too. And I've been noticing a little bit of like a slight like frequency bandwidth shift for a couple of years now, which I've talked about in previous videos, but this felt really palpable. And then, you know, I was having a drink on the side of the river. There was like a little, you know, a bar kiosk that they have, you know, just on the side of the river, where people, on like a barge, where people can just sit and, you know, have a couple of cocktails. So we decided to just watch the sunset, me and a friend. And then suddenly I remembered the dream that I'd had, where I talked about in previous videos, where I had the dream that I was walking on and it was an astral dream, and I was lucid as well, completely lucid, so I knew I was dreaming. And I was walking on the bank of the River Thames, and then I suddenly saw the grand solar flash. So, you know, all these flares just went off in the sky, and then I saw the Eye of Providence. And when I was sitting there with this friend having the cocktails, we were having a conversation about, you know, our journey and what's been going on and everything that we've been processing in the last year. I suddenly remembered, oh my God, this looks exactly like my dream, or very, very similar. And I was even saying to her, this feels different. Like, I feel like, you know, this feels surreal almost. Like, I almost feel like I'm in a different band of frequency, like a higher band of frequency, because this is just so insanely beautiful. And then I was just like, whoa, this looks like my dream. So I told her about my dream and told her a little bit about the flash. And she had heard, you know, sort of similar kind of whisperings. A lot of the people that I'm meeting at the moment have heard, you know, rumours of this grand solar flash that's supposedly imminent, or we're in the middle of, or who kind of knows, because we've never kind of experienced this in human civilization before. I mean, it could just be nonsense as well, you know, like, I don't know. I've said this before, I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm just saying that I've had visions, talked about it in previous videos. Other people I know in my community who I'm connected with have also had similar dreams and visions of this, you know, kind of ascension thing that's going to happen. So as we were sitting there talking, I suddenly saw a flash of light come from like behind, you know, behind one of the buildings. You know, there were all these skyscrapers, and I was like, whoa. And I just started getting chills all the way down my body. And she said that when I was, you know, in the toilet, also she noticed that there was like a flash in the sky as well. She didn't know what it was. It could have been nothing, you know. I'm just telling you guys what I've experienced, and y'all make up your own mind about what you think is going on. Could have been nothing. But I've also had other friends say, you know, when we were at the festival, there was, you know, and it was the best festival that I've ever been to. Just the energy, I can't describe it. It was just so good to just congregate together, like as tribe, as like soul family, like just humans coming together, you know, in celebration for just, you know, our creativity and just, you know, being human. And we haven't done that in such a long time. And, you know, it's one of the reasons why the marches last year were so electric. But to be able to kind of do it all together, not be fighting anything, just be celebrating life and having fun and being in a body and listening to music and dancing and connecting with people. It's just so, there's something just so primal about it. So we had a really amazing time at Secret Garden Party, and the friends that I was with, they basically said that there were a couple of moments where they actually like went to sleep and then woke up in 5D, like not just in a dream, like they actually woke up in the actual physical environment, and it felt like they'd woken up in a slightly different dimensional bandwidth. I mean, it happens to me sometimes. Sometimes I'll wake up in my room and the room will be, you know, look exactly the same, and I think that I've woken up in my normal room, but I'll have actually woken up in the astrals. And the astrals are kind of 5 to 7D, and the only way that I'll know that I'm in the astrals rather than, you know, in, you know, this dimension is because things will be weird, like it will start raining in my room or like I'll be wearing jewelry and I'm not actually I didn't fall asleep with jewelry, and just strange different things will be going on. So, you know, they said that they kind of woke up in 5D, everything was much more colorful, more vibrant. They could see kind of more fractals. They could see like the geometries that were making up everything. Kind of like if you've ever taken mushrooms in the middle of the day and had a mushroom journey and actually interacted with the environment rather than doing it at night and journeying with it shamanically. How when you look at things, you can kind of see the fractals in everything. So it was like that. And they were able to communicate telepathically with each other. And then they went back to sleep, and then they woke up in, you know, this normal band of frequency. So, you know, that is happening for some people. Some of you may be noticing that. If you are noticing that, it's just, you know, we're shifting. As you shift and as you drop old density, everything around you shifts as well. We're all shifting together. There's obviously a lot of challenges happening as well. You know, I don't want to focus too much on those, but, you know, there are going to be some things that, you know, are going to happen. You know, I think at the moment a lot of people are noticing, you know, inflation, you know, record inflation. A lot of people are struggling to kind of make ends meet. A lot of that is connected to, you know, a lot of the truth about the financial system and the system that, you know, the debt slavery system that we've been operating under for a really, really long time is becoming completely unsustainable. And it's getting to the point where it's becoming so uncomfortable for a lot of people, because a lot of people need to recognize what's going on. Too many people have had their head in the sand for too long, or they just, you know, were too hopelessly enslaved to even really, you know, be able to question it, have the time to kind of study these things and question it, because they were too busy kind of working on a hamster wheel just to survive. But I think it's getting to the point now where, yes, a lot of people are still in that situation, but it's getting so intense that they're having to. So most of the people, when you go through an awakening journey, it's because the pressure of living in this, in this density becomes so intense that you are forced to seek, the answers to the questions that you have about the nature of this reality, because you're looking for a way to kind of escape the mental prisons that you find yourself trapped in. So that's the kind of process that a lot of people are going through right now, and they're looking for solutions, and we're all going to be co-creating these solutions together. That's how we anchor in the new earth. I don't think we're just going to be, it's just going to be like handed to us. I don't think, okay, we might just pop out in 5D and everything will be better. But no, we are going to have to actually do the physical work of anchoring certain things in. But the shift is going to happen in consciousness. It's going to happen within us as we drop old stories, as we drop limiting beliefs, as we drop, the idea that we can't manifest things, the limitations, basically. A lot of people have held on to too many limitations for so long. When you talk about the system and the way things are, and government corruption and debt slavery and capitalism and the way that we treat animals, the way that we treat the planet, for those of us who've been kind of awake for a long time and aware of these issues, for years I was just faced with, well, that's just the way things are, you're never going to get people to care about things, and and now we're at a point where people are being forced to care. They have to care, to the point where they're actually using some of these issues to try and continue to enslave humanity. So a lot of these fear-based tactics that you're seeing in the mainstream media around, climate change and mass extinction events and catastrophizing, it's all basically coming from this kind of archonic force that just wants to feed on your fear and wants to feed on your loosh. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned about the way that we've been treating the planet, but I think that we need to be solutions focused, and there are going to be solutions. We are going to come up with solutions, and people need to have a bit more faith and a bit more trust in themselves and each other, and our ability to kind of manifest and co-create and come up with the solutions to the problems that we collectively face. And those solutions do not come in the form of population control. If you believe that, then you unfortunately have been had by those that serve the enemy, who want to basically cull the population. If you think that the world is overpopulated and we need to cull the population, then go ahead, you go first. You can willingly choose to leave the planet if that's what you choose to do and that's what you believe. That's fine. I'm not going to interfere with anybody's free will where that is concerned, but nobody else has the right to cull other members of the human population or even the animal population. That just goes against natural law, and it's just evil. So that's all I have to say about that. But yeah, other ways that we are going to be not forced to, it's causing us, the kind of energy shifts that we're going through right now is causing people to kind of not just look for the solutions to the problems that we face, in my personal opinion, are not necessarily only found out there, but a lot of it is going to be your inner game. So we change the world by changing ourselves. So healing yourself, healing yourself of your trauma, healing yourself of your limiting beliefs, healing yourself stopping getting triggered, stopping to need or constantly need to project onto others to try and fix others. Fix yourself and then lead by example, okay? Be the change that the world needs, and just show people how it's done, but don't school people. And this happens when people go through an awakening journey, that they will start to get into a little bit of a messiah complex. And I've talked about this in previous videos. I did a video on it on my Odyssey channel. I'll maybe link it here, or I'll link it in my description box, or you guys can just go to my Odyssey channel, and there's a video on the messiah complex. If you look at my previous videos, because sometimes I forget to link stuff, okay? So if you go to my videos on YouTube, there will be like a short video called the Messiah Complex, and there will be a link in the description box that will take you to that video on Odyssey. I didn't post it on YouTube because YouTube was censoring the topics that I was talking about. But yes, so okay, so let's get into the topic of the video. What happens, okay, when you start to level up, when you start to kind of go on this ascension journey, or you know, be pushed. We're all going through the ascension journey, okay? There's no two ways about it. Everybody is now on the path. Everybody is on the awakening path, even if they don't quite realize it yet, okay? Most of ascension is just you shedding, you know, it's just emotional growth. It's the process of human evolution. It's the process of, you know, the journey of existence and life. We're all going through it, okay? Even if humans don't, a particular human being doesn't spiritually awaken in this lifetime, it's because they haven't contracted to awaken in that lifetime. They're just learning their certain lessons that they need to, but then maybe they'll awaken in the next one, or the next one, or the next one, or the next one. You know, it's up to that individual soul's journey, and it's not for us to decide when they're supposed to awaken or try and wake them up, okay? We can be there as like a guiding light for others, just as others are a guiding light for us, but we're not here to try and force people to awaken. So, you know, I was seeing a lot of that, and I went through it myself as well in the kind of truth community, the spiritual community, you know, where people thought it was their responsibility to wake others up because those who are not awake are ruining it for everyone. And that's true, but a lot of it is, there's a certain point that you get to where you realize, I don't want to say it's only about changing yourself, okay, because that's not what I mean. I mean that the world around you will shift when you take responsibility, not just for yourself, but also your creation, because, you know, we're co-creating this reality. So, you know, because we are holographic, this entire universe, a fractal universe, is holographic in nature. So every quantum particle contains an entire image of the entire whole. So by healing yourself, you actually change the entire fabric of the reality, which is why, you know, as you change yourself, you'll start to notice that your experience of life completely changes, and the world around you changes as well. You know, so I've talked about this in previous videos, so I'm not going to go too deep into it in this one. So, you know, what can happen as you start to go through this journey is, now I don't want to say that this will happen, because I don't want to install limiting beliefs that then end up manifesting for people who haven't got to this point yet, but it can happen. So if you have experienced this, I'll explain why. But people around you may get triggered, okay? People around you may not like the fact that you're leveling up, not like the fact that you're improving yourself, that you're starting to listen to yourself, you're starting to listen to the wisdom of your body, you're starting to listen to your limiting beliefs and reprogram them and flip them and starting to actually become more empowered. Some people will get triggered by that because, you know, misery loves company, and when, you know, they no longer, if you had the type of relationships where you would all sit around and just bitch about your lot in life and stay stuck in victim consciousness, when you start to drop the victim consciousness and you start to take responsibility for your life, and you start to recognize that nobody's coming to save you and you're the architect of your own destiny, and you start actually making changes and making steps to actually improve your lot in life, other people may get triggered by that. Now, there may be two reasons why this happens, okay? One is just because they actually don't want you to level up, either because they don't want what's best for you, because they're frenemies. You know, it may be because they can't stand to see you do better than them. They feel abandoned. They're worried that, you know, they're going to get left behind. But you also have to take responsibility, and don't act like it's just, you know, them being toxic and, you know, you're so enlightened, and if only they were as awakened and enlightened as you, then they would see. It might also be because you're having a case of the Messiah complex, okay, where you start coaching people or schooling people or trying to educate people, trying to wake them up. And, you know, that is actually like a boundary that you shouldn't be crossing. Like it's an energetic and a spiritual boundary violation to start coaching people or start giving them unsolicited advice without their consent. And this is something that I had to learn, you know, because I have a tendency to do this as well. When people come to me and they start complaining about their life, or they start complaining about their relationship, you know, I want to help, because I've spent so, you know, I've been there a lot of the time where they are. And, you know, I've had to work so hard on myself and spend hours and hours and hours studying how this reality works in order to free myself from those shackles, from those mental prisons. So I want to help free people, and that's if you're feeling like you just want to help, that's very honorable, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but you've got to understand that not everybody wants that, and not everybody even needs that right now. Some people, if they're going through something, like let's say for example they've been victimized, you can tell them that they create their reality, and that, you know, others respond to them based on how they see themselves and how they see others. But that's not always helpful, and it can actually be extremely dismissive of their experience and invalidating, and, you know, and just plain not helpful, and not compassionate, not considerate. And what they really need in that moment is to be heard and to be seen and to be validated and to be told that it wasn't their fault. Once they start seeking deeper truths, then they may get to a place where they're ready to hear, you know, how they co-created that situation and how they can protect themselves against ever manifesting that situation again. And I'm not saying that that it's completely our fault when other people abuse us. Other people are 100% accountable for their actions. So, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, if you've been abused that you're to blame. I'm just saying that there are things that you can do when you get initiated into certain, you know, deeper knowledge of how things work here, to protect yourself from that ever happening again. So it's not about, you know, you blaming yourself or anything like that, okay? If somebody harmed you, they are 100% to blame for what they did, but there are ways to take your power back, and I've spoken about them in previous videos. I'll speak about them in future videos, okay? So, you know, you've got to be mindful that as you start to come into this knowledge of, you know, how to, you know, navigate this reality, how to navigate relationships, how to empower yourself, that other people will be triggered, because of, you know, what I said, that they don't want you to do well, they don't want you to do better than them, but also because you're being superior, and nobody likes that, okay? Just to be real, like, don't act like, oh, that there's something wrong with it. Because if you're basically if you're being like, oh, they're just so negative, they're so toxic, they're stuck in victim consciousness, and, you know, you're actually not as awakened or as enlightened as you think that you are, because everybody's on the path, and you were there at one point as well, and what that person needs is compassion right now. And if you're not able to give it to them, then you're definitely not on the path as much as you think you are. And no shade, because I've been there and I've done this. I've been this person, and I've annoyed people and triggered people, and I've acted like, oh, they're so triggered because that's their trigger. And it's just like, yeah, okay, it's their trigger, but I'm triggering them because what I'm doing is fucked up, and I'm continuing to trigger them because I'm abusing them. Like, and especially if you have certain knowledge that, you know, that they don't have, that is an abuse of power. That is an abuse of power, because you're not using the knowledge in the correct way, okay? You are supposed to meet them where they're at, and you are supposed to be compassionate towards them. So, you know, that can happen. Another thing that can happen is people will fall out of resonance largely for this reason, but also sometimes it's not even just personal. It'll just be like a little thing, like maybe, you know, your friends who you used to hang out with and go party and drink and, you know, do drugs or whatever you like, you know, previously liked to do, as you start to kind of go through more like healthy living, and maybe you want to start waking up early and doing breath work and yoga and meditation, and you want to give up drinking and you want to go teetotal and go plant-based and all of that stuff, those people will fall out of resonance, so you just won't see them anymore. Or you might even see them, but you just don't vibe anymore because you're just on a different frequency now. You just have a different way of seeing the world. And that's fine. And don't take it personally. They shouldn't take it personally. You shouldn't take it personally. Just wish them love, send them love. And sometimes it can happen where, you know, and I've talked about this before again, where you'll fall out of resonance. And as long as you don't let it, you don't, you know, make it a thing and make it dramatic or act like, you know, it's a big fallout or whatever. Just wish them love as you kind of move on your path, and there will be like a reconvening later. I've had this happen with loads of people. It will either be because, you know, they want to live more of a healthy lifestyle, or, you know, they're interested in what you're interested in now, or they want to level up, or they're adopting a slightly different worldview that you're now adopting. Or it can happen that you'll swing the other way. So sometimes people go so far one way where they'll be, you know, adopt a certain worldview, you know, and with awakening, it's not linear, okay? Those of you who studied Hermetic philosophy, if you haven't, you should read the Kabbalion. We'll talk about this, the principle of rhythm. It's a pendulum. So it swings. So I talked about this, you know, awakening. A lot of people go away, oh, I'm awakening, and they go into like a woke culture, and then they go like a really left wing, and they're, oh, we need to save everybody, we need to help everybody, we need to be, you know, and then other people will go, oh no, I'm giving all my energy away, okay, I need to go like really, and then you'll swing to the right, and it's all about self-empowerment, and that can go into a territory that's quite narcissistic. So it's always about that middle path and aligning yourself to the middle way as much as possible. So, you know, you could go really like become like a total ascetic and be like a monk in a Himalayan cave and like just tune out the world and just go like meditate all the time. Like maybe not that extreme, but maybe, you know, you just want to be super like, you know, just in your own space and in your own energy and waking up super early, and you're like looking down on people who are partying and da. But then, you know, after a year or two of doing that, you might be like, okay, this is great, but I want to be like in the world as well and interacting with people and just be like a normal person. And I think that the pandemic did that for a lot of people. I mean, for me, I started to feel like, you know, partying was so toxic, because it was for me for a long time. It was, you know, I was engaging in really toxic behaviors. I didn't have good boundaries. And so it wasn't just that the party lifestyle was toxic. I was toxic. After the whole pandemic and us being shut down for so long and missing so much human contact and human connection, I now love partying. And, you know, after spending 3 weeks, you know, in a field with friends and at this festival, I just realized how much I missed it. And, you know, I have been kind of going out a little bit more since things started opening up and just enjoying life, drinking a little bit of alcohol. Like, you know, even though I've talked about in previous videos about, you know, when you consume spirits and, you know, what that does to you, I know, like, if I get an entity attachment, I know how to remove it. So I'm not too worried about drinking a glass of wine here and there. So I enjoy being able to interact with my normal friends who are not super like, you know, enlightened, you know, on the deep on the path people. They're just normal people that have normal lives, and they're good people. And do you know what I mean? Like this whole like separation between, oh, we're awake and then these are the muggles, it's just, I just don't see that anymore. Like I feel like everybody has got a different way of, you know, connecting with spirit. Even if you think that they're a muggle, you'd be surprised how many people are actually not. And, you know, I just don't like this kind of it's just another divide and conquer tactic personally. And again, one thing I'm also noticing within myself, but also some of my clients that I've been speaking to, and just generally within people in the community, is we're just starting to see the alternative media for what it is. it's just another form of controlled opposition. And I'm not saying that everybody who has like an alternative podcast or who is in the alternative media or the truth community or whatever is some kind of shill. I'm not saying that, okay? I'm just, again, talking about the principle of rhythm. Everybody's got a certain perspective, but you know, you've also got to understand that just because something is alternative media doesn't mean that that's the ultimate truth, okay? Just like how people think, oh, Gaia is like, Gaia TV is like, you know, it's dropping all the truth bombs and stuff like that. Like, Gaia TV is like, you know, it's probably owned by I would not be surprised if it was owned by like BlackRock or Vanguard. So, you know, and in that way, yes, okay, that is actually like they are getting an actual check from the Illuminati. So a lot of it is actually controlled opposition. But that doesn't, you know, I'm not saying that everybody who does shows on Gaia TV is, you know, serving the dark side, because I just don't, I see so much of this now with people who are newly awakening and they're getting into all the conspiracies and they literally think that everything is satanic and everyone is a shill and everybody's transgender and that the world is flat, and they're literally just, they're so internally polarized, okay? So when you're swinging one way to the other, from like severe codependency to severe narcissism, or, you know, being so asleep to then so awake and I'm such a conspiracy theorist and the world is flat and they're a shill and they're a shill, you're internally polarized, okay? And you need to come back to the center and transcend all that duality. And I'm not saying that, you know, become a moral relativist and there is no wrong and there is no right. I'm not saying that, okay? Just align to the truth. And be humble as well, okay? Because, God knows, I've been on this journey for like 15 years. And the amount of times I got really, really into believing one thing was true in a certain worldview, you know, and I've done it about so many things, you know, about anti-racism, feminism. Then I got really into like polarity teachings. And now I'm like much more nuanced with my views about all of that. Mainly to do with gender, masculine, feminine, and energetics. That it's just helped me to see that I'm not saying that there is no truth. I'm just saying that like our perception can be very, as human beings, can be, you know, a little bit distorted. It's not always, you know, as aligned to that central channel of truth as we think it is. So just be humble and try not to get into like keyboard wars with people online, because that's draining your energy. That's energy harvesting. Okay, so just acknowledge, recognize when your energy is being harvested, when your loosh is being harvested, and bring it back to yourself. Show compassion to whoever it is that you're, you know, is presenting an opposing view and getting triggered by what you're saying, or you're getting triggered by them. And focus your energy towards your mission. Like, what are you here to do? So yeah, if you're having issues where you're going between one polarity and the other, and you're not sure how to discern the truth, then my course Reclaim Your Crown will help you do this as an embodied experience, because it helps you trust the wisdom of your body. A lot of people cannot trust the wisdom of their body because they have too much trauma. And what happens when you have trauma is you basically get hit with, like, you know, implants and, you know, overlays and things like that basically siphon your energy into basically false ascension traps and harvesting nets. I hope this is making sense. So clearing the trauma from the body using dynamic movements, tapping, breath work, affirmations, all of those things will clear the trauma, and then help you actually, you'll start to actually feel prana moving through the meridians of your body. And then you'll become much more attuned to where you have blockages and things like that. And in the course, I teach you which parts of your body correspond to different emotions. So if you start to have pain in like your right hip, you know that that's somehow connected to maybe like an abandonment trauma in your masculine energy. Things like that, okay? It gets very, very specific. So, and there's some activations as well. So it will help align you with your highest timeline. Yes. Okay. So was there anything else I wanted to say? Yeah. Okay. So there were some questions that people asked in the Q&A. Let me get them. Okay, so somebody asked, can you do a post video on inversion? How does it happen? How to come up out of it? And I really don't know what this means, but I'm assuming that it means when you basically become polarized from one belief system to another. So let's say, for example, you're healing from codependency issues and you do a lot of shadow work around your codependency issues and you end up becoming narcissistic. That's because you've gone too far. Again, it's the principle of rhythm. It's the pendulum swinging in an equal and opposite direction. If the center of being completely embodied, in healthy boundaries and love for yourself and others, healthy love for yourself and others is here, and you're codependent, then the pendulum can swing in an opposite and equal direction. So you just need to keep on your journey, and eventually you'll align with the central pillar. That's what I think that this person means. But if she's talking about satanic inversion, that's also a similar thing. Okay, it's just turning everything on its head. Okay, so this was a good question. How do I stop feeling guilty for being successful and having a good life? Okay, so this was major on my journey. As I was going through my awakening process, I went through like a racial awakening, a gender awakening. I started to see all the systems of oppression that a lot of humanity has been living under. And these things are true, okay? Like, there are a lot of people on this planet who are suffering, who are basically living in a state of slavery or indentured servitude. Most people, even if you live quite a comfortable life, it's still a form of indentured servitude. It's just you're slightly more comfortable. You're a house slave rather than a field slave. But just because others are suffering more than you and you're kind of enjoying yourself and enjoying a little bit of abundance does not mean that you should feel guilty, okay? And that you should be suffering like everybody else, okay? This is a lie of the enemy. And when I say the enemy, I'm not even necessarily talking about a real entity, okay? Whether you believe in Satan or not, it doesn't really matter, okay? It's the opposite of God, okay? It's just an inverted consciousness. You could even call it like the absence of God. Or the absence of truth, or just a lie, okay? The father of lies. That's why they call him the father of lies, okay? It's a lie that you should feel guilty for being abundant, for being comfortable, for being free of suffering. Like, we all deserve that. That's what we came here to learn how to do, okay? People who are saying that you came here to suffer, I'm sorry, like, I just don't believe that, okay? I do not believe that we came here to suffer. Some of us chose to incarnate here to go through certain lessons. And yes, okay, some of us have suffered as a pre-contracted choice that we made to learn how to overcome that suffering, either for our own soul's journey so that we can kind of reawaken back to the one and where we came from, or to assist others who are going through suffering, okay? That's a choice that you might have made from a higher level when you incarnated. But the choice was made so that you could learn how to overcome the suffering, okay? It wasn't just to suffer as an end in and of itself, okay? Sometimes it was just so that you can have the experience of that. But I believe that, okay, I don't believe that it was just to suffer, okay? It was so that you could learn how to overcome the suffering, so that you could learn how to escape the suffering, so that you can learn how to manifest, so that you can learn how to heal from the suffering, all of those things. If you want to be successful and you want to have a good life, then that is for you, okay? And you need to learn how to achieve that. And then you need to, if you're feeling guilty, then maybe your mission and purpose is to help others achieve that for themselves as well. It's not to just give away everything that you have so that you come down to the level of the people that are suffering, or so that you can average everything out, okay? That's like a really like communist ideology, and communism I just think is a very evil ideology. I don't agree with it at all. So, I truly believe that God wants us to be abundant, and God wants us to be fruitful and, and happy and in love, and to praise and to glorify him, or her, the mother, earth, and Holy Father, the covering of, Sky Daddy. Okay, so a really good book that you can read about this is by Jeremy Locke. It's called The End of All Evil. You can find it online as a free PDF, and it will take you, if you sit there and read it all day, you can read it in one day. It's not a very long book, but it will basically turn a lot of those inversions on their head, and he basically cut through bullshit like with his sword of truth. And you know, a lot of ideas that people might not have been exposed to before, he presents. And you know, I think that a lot of what he's saying is true, and you know, it will basically cut through a lot of this woke bullshit very quickly. So have a read. You know, whichever side of the fence you sit on, just have a read, see what you think. You're always going to learn something, right? Mark Passio's recommended that book. That's where I got that book from. So those of you who are fans of Mark Passio will enjoy that book. Yes, and so just ask yourself, are you is your success coming from, most of the time, a lot of the time, people are successful because they're providing something that's valuable to someone else, particularly somebody that has the resources to compensate them for that thing. Now, a lot, you know, the problems that we've seen in the world, you know, with the energetics around money and abundance are because we've had a real short-sightedness around, you know, what offerings are valuable. So we've been doing things that kind of go against natural law, that go against the earth, and are very short-sighted. Okay, they had basically offered value in the short term, but then they caused a lot of issues further down the line. So, you know, if you're looking for like a get-rich-quick scheme, people who are looking for get-rich-quick schemes can get rich quick, but the foundation upon which their business is built upon is unstable. So, like, for example, if you want to start like a Amazon fulfillment service selling like cheap crap from China that it's not really helping the world, people will buy it because it's helping them in the short term, but eventually that business will be unsustainable, like not just in terms of what it's doing to the planet, but it will be unsustainable as a business model for you to keep on making money from it, because at a certain point people are going to be like, we don't want this useless crap because look, it's destroying our landfills and things like that. So if you want to basically build like a dynasty and like a legacy that's like multi-generational, that's going to create wealth for not just yourself but your children and your grandchildren, then you know, you gotta have something that's actually helping the world in a sustainable way. You know, if it's not, and you feel like it's actually like harming or hurting, then I would just look at just giving back, you know, somehow, you know, creating something that gives back to society and gives back to the community. Somebody asked me if I've ever done ayahuasca. Yes, I have. I went to the Amazon 5 years ago and did it in Colombia, and it was very, very intense. I haven't felt called to do it again. Like, I'm still actually integrating everything from the 3 ceremonies that I did. I will link the vlogs if I remember. If not, you can just search my channel for ayahuasca, and the videos will come up. I mean, I did get something from it, like I will say that, but it's not an enjoyable experience. Okay, it's very intense. And it can be, for me it was quite scary, so I don't really want to do it again. Okay, and even like I've since done a couple of psilocybin ceremonies, or I've, you know, sat with Changa. Changa's much more gentle. It's just 10 minutes. You just hit the Changa pipe and you just lie back, and it only lasts 10 minutes, and you kind of go and talk to grandmother spirit. I even find that a little bit uncomfortable. I actually just don't really like going into those shamanic realms. Sometimes I'm okay with it, sometimes it's fine, but other times it's just like, I just don't like the visuals. I don't really like how the entities look. I do make sure, if you are going to journey by yourself, make sure that you seal and protect, you know, the space, your energetic space. Revoke consent from any spirits that don't serve the living Christ. You know, make sure that you set proper intention, make sure that you thank the spirit of the plant that you're working with, all of that stuff. Okay, were there any other questions? Okay, as a vegan, how can I stop feeling anger towards family and friends for eating meat? Okay, this is the big one. I had this, I had it really intensely. Okay, so the first thing that I said was understand that Jains, fruitarians, breatharians, etc. probably feel I mean, they maybe don't, but they might feel the same way towards you as a vegan because you are eating, you know, like roots and tubers. So potatoes, garlic, onions, all of those are roots. And that's why some like Jains and Buddhists will not eat that stuff, because you're actually killing the plant when you eat that. If you're having just fruits, seeds, leaves, things like that, vegetables, you know, a lot of that is fine because you're not killing the plant and you're actually propagating more life, which is why veganism, plant-based veganism, is a more sustainable and a more compassionate lifestyle than being a meat eater. Sorry if that offends you, but it just is. But there is a level above that, which is fruitarianism or being a Jain, and then from there being a breatharian. So, you know, a lot of people aren't ready to go that deep. So understand that that's probably how they see you. So that can maybe make you feel a little bit more compassionate to those who aren't ready to make the leap to going vegan. But also, if you're watching a lot of slaughterhouse videos, and, you know, I do think it's necessary for people who are interested in going vegan to watch that stuff, because it helps keep your conviction and your why you're doing it, and, you know, make sure that you don't slip up. It can make you really, really angry at the people in your life that are supporting that shit. Like, it really can. Like, I didn't even want to speak to some of the people in my life, and, you know, some of them are family members, and I would just get so angry. And you know, with family you can kind of be yourself a little bit more, so I would kind of really let rip when I would see them eating animal products, and you just don't want to be that vegan, you know. It doesn't really help. Sometimes it can, you know, if somebody's on the fence, it can kind of push them over the fence and make them decide to go vegan, but for a lot of people it's just really off-putting because they haven't seen what you've seen, so they don't understand why you're getting so upset and why you're making such a big deal out of it. So, you know, what somebody asked, what turns me on? Deep conversation. Like, I love having deep conversations, and it doesn't have to just be spiritual stuff. It can be, you know, whatever the person's passionate about, but I just love like connecting on like a intellectual level and just really getting inside someone's head. But also what turns me on is, you know, I don't get turned on that easily, because, you know, when you're on a hierogamic path, you get you have such a clear alignment on who you are that you don't fit with so many people. Like, you're gonna be, there comes a point where you actually only fit with one person who's actually your divine union partner, or just God. And that masculine principle, or the divine feminine if you're a man, a heterosexual man. Okay, that's it. Those are all the questions I got that week. So yes, that's all I have for this week, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry if I was a little bit all over the place, but I've had a little bit of a long day, and I'm quite tired, and things are really hectic for me at the moment because I'm about to leave the UK. So just when it comes to sessions, for those of you that are wanting to book sessions, single sessions totally okay. Packages could be a little bit chaotic for the next couple of weeks because I'm moving and I got to get settled and all of that stuff. So I'm not saying that I'm not going to do them, but I just want to manage expectations. So if you are interested in doing a package, message me. Let's see how it aligns. If you're kind of flexible with, you know, when you want to do your sessions, we can make it work. Oftentimes I'll do one session with a client and then we'll leave like two, sometimes even 3 weeks for them to integrate that session and, you know, allow the changes to kind of take shape in their field before we then do the second session. So if that's what you're wanting, then I can totally do it. If you're wanting to do like one session every week, might be a little bit difficult for me to fit in because my schedule is kind of crazy as I'm kind of leaving the UK and moving to another country. But yes, I can't wait, finally leaving these grids, and hope you like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, bye.